Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're joining us for the first time, my name's Wesley and I'm the SoCal Fishing Dude. Here on the channel we try to do some gear reviews, unboxings, and just some raw fishing content. If you end up liking what you see, give us a like and maybe consider subscribing to the channel. And I'm sure as you guys saw, as you read the description of the title, we're going to be talking about the Googan rods. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Alright guys, so I debated about even doing this video because I'm building my own rods now, so I don't really buy too many rods anymore. I kind of build what I want, specifically how I like it. So I wasn't even going to do this review or get these rods, but I had a bunch of my friends and some other people ask me my opinions on them and if I was going to get them. So I figured, you know what, I'll just go ahead and get a couple of them, test them out, and let you guys know what I thought of them. So I got the Gold Series rod, the Go-To, and I got the Green Series rod Go-To, both in the Go-To. Now they have, Googans have the two different series. They have the gold and the green. The gold is supposed to be a little bit higher quality product, has a little bit better carbon, and so on and so forth, a little bit better guides, and it has the cork handles and stuff. So it's just supposed to be a little bit better product, a little bit higher quality product over the green rod. The Green Series is supposed to be a little bit more budget friendly. So let's just go ahead and jump into the specs real quick. The specs on the rod, these are both 7 foot. They're both medium heavy. They are both fast action. Now, they don't have printed on the rods the line capacity for the rod or the lure weight. They don't have that anywhere on the rod. I had to go online and look it up. So just for you guys' info, the line weight for mono or fluorocarbon is 12 pounds to 17 pounds. Braided line is 30 to 50 pounds. Lure weight is 3/8 ounce to 3/4 ounce. For both series, the gold and the green for the Go-To. Now, Googans started off with they have started this little kind of animation type deal on the rod to kind of show you what the specific rods are kind of designed for. They have the reaction, the twitch, the muscle, or the finesse, and then they have, you know, little check marks, little dots, 4 dots to kind of signify which rod, what the rod is designated for. That's their little way of kind of showing you their rods. That way it's kind of quick and easy for people who might not know the ins and outs of all the rod markings and lingo, if you will. So moving on from the specs, the carbon that they used for the Gold Series rod is a 30 to 40 ton carbon. Now that's, without getting into too much detail about it, that's basically just the quality of the carbon, more or less. And what that typically does, the higher the numbers, is kind of like a pure carbon. So that usually gives you a little bit more sensitivity. Lighter, stiffer, more sensitivity is what it kind of equals out to. But it's a little bit trickier because it ends up being a little bit more brittle. So companies have really kind of designed their, their epoxy process and their rolling process for the carbon to enhance the strength of those, so you can still get the durability from those. Pretty industry standard, 30 to 40 ton carbon. That's, pretty standard. You see that in a lot of rods when they start getting up into the price range and quality and performance wise. You see, 30, 40, 50 ton carbon and so on. The Green Series rod, that is a 24 to 30 ton carbon, and the same goes for that. It just means it's not as pure, but it usually means that it's a little bit more durable. So you might not have the brittleness of the pure carbons. Now, I don't know the company that they used. I looked all over, tried to search for the company that they bought their carbon from or they used for their blanks. And I couldn't find it, so unsure about that. So we'll just have to wait to see on how good or how high quality the carbon that they bought was. But from first impressions, seems pretty good. It seems, decent enough. They don't seem flimsy or cheap. Moving on to the handle. Let's go ahead and just talk about the handle real quick. They have this unique handle design on there. At first, I thought I might not like it, but after holding it and fishing it, it's actually not too bad. Doesn't feel awkward in your hand. It actually has a pretty good fit to your hand. So I kind of dig on that. Now, the Gold Series, I'm not a huge cork guy. That's not my first choice. I would much rather have EVA foam or maybe some other type of material like a carbon handle, something like that. But nonetheless, still a pretty cool handle. And I dig the reel seat. They have that cool design. It's a pretty cool design. And they got a whole bunch of gold flake in there. They also have the clicking or ratcheting reel seat lock, which is pretty cool. And then they just have a bunch of details like the Googan thumbprint on the bottom, kind of a ghost decal. It says Googan Squad right here in between the split grip. Moving on to the guides on the Gold Series rods, they have the Sea Guides, which Sea Guide is, pretty good company. They have really cool reel seats, and they also have really good guides. So that's kind of an upgrade that you get on the Gold Series rod, is you get the Sea Guides. The epoxy and the wrapping looks pretty good. It's not, doesn't look slapdash. Looks pretty clean, not just globbed on there. So that's good. Now, the Googans, when I watched videos on their rods, they kind of had some selling points that they put out on these rods. They kind of really hyped up, if you will, the balance of the rods. And I was kind of iffy on that whole thing because it's really hard, in my opinion, to balance a rod without knowing specific things for the angler that's buying it. It's all going to come down to what size reel you're putting on here and how the angler holds the rod. That's all going to change the balance point of where you are going to balance your rod. So they were hyping it up and kind of talking about that they were going to be balanced, or that they had balanced their rods. But as you can kind of see right here, these aren't really balanced. They're still tip heavy, like you're going to find in most rods. They're pretty tip heavy. Now, if you put a reel on it, it's going to change that. It might be a little bit more balanced, but again, it's all going to change based on what size reel you put on here and where you hold it. If you end up choking kind of higher up on the grip, it's going to be different balance points. So they aren't really balanced from what I have seen, in my opinion. So again, that's just something that they hyped up that I noticed, and it kind of stood out to me that when they were talking about things about their rods. Another thing that they were talking about was the difference between the green and the gold, how the gold was supposed to be a bit higher quality, supposed to be lighter, more sensitive, so on, hence the higher ton or modules of carbon in the Gold Series rod. And I weighed them both. I weighed the gold and the green. I'll go ahead and put up a clip of the video of me weighing each one. The weight difference was not that much. As you can see on the gold rod, it was 4.1 ounces, and the green rod was 4.2 ounces. So in my opinion, that's not a real significant amount of weight reduction. Now, you might see some of that weight reduction in the bigger rods and their muscle rods. For that more heavier duty type fishing, it's going to be a bigger blank, more material, so there might be some weight difference in the bigger rods. But for the go-to size, not that much weight difference. Again, like I was talking about the guides, the gold does have the Sea Guides. The green, they don't say specifically what guides they use. So moving on to the guides, going on a little bit more about the guides, about guide placement more specifically. I noticed on the guides, on the guide placements, they weren't exactly how I would put them on my rod, and that kind of brought up some questions. So I did a little bit of testing on it, and I found that the blanks or the line, I've tried to do this a couple times shooting this video, and it got kind of frustrating, but I'll try to show you again. But when you put a rod under pressure, or when you put a rod, flex it, catch a fish, and you go to put it under pressure, you see the line will come close to the blank or get close. And the idea behind it is, when I build a rod or when I'm putting my guides on, I try to get as much flex from the rod without any of the line coming in contact with the blank or falling below the blank of the rod. So, you know, typically there's kind of like a standard of what you can really get out of a rod. So obviously, if you bend a rod completely all the way around, you're going to have some of that line drop and all that. But the point is to try to get as much of it out as you can. And if you look, you might not be able to see it, but if you bend the rod here on a fish that's, if you're in a good sized fish, it's pretty loaded up, you might not be able to see it. You're just going to have to take my word for it. But the line drops below the blank here and here, which kind of gives it this bow and arrow type effect. And what that's doing is it's taking the pressure, even amounts of pressure on the guides, and distributing it along the blank. And now you're getting hot spots in those two locations, to where that could possibly cause you some blank problems. Like if you hook into a good fish, that could cause the rod to snap. Now, it may never snap. They might be able to withstand that just fine. You might not have any problems with that, but that could be an issue. That's just one thing that I noticed, that the guides were a little bit far, like they weren't spaced correctly, a little bit farther, or I'm losing the words. They're spaced out farther than I would like. That's what I'm trying to say. So there are things you can do. You can move these a little bit closer together, or you could add a guide, but I'm sure they probably didn't want to add a guide just for, you know, keeping costs down and all that kind of stuff. But it is doable with the amount of guides that are on this rod. And the amount of guides they have on here, there's 8 guides plus the tip top, which means 9 guides in total. And I know you can get pretty good line distribution, pressure distribution with 9 guides. I've done it with 9 guides, and I've seen other companies do it with 9 guides, so I know it's possible. So I definitely would have liked to see a little bit better guide placement on these rods. But with that being said, overall, they're pretty cool rods, I will have to say. You know, they look cool. Will they perform? Time will tell. You know, we'll see how good the carbon is. They've only been out a couple months, so I don't think there's been that much testing done on them. So time will tell to see the quality of the rods. Now, like I was talking about, the issues with the guide spacing, that could be a problem. You could have some snapping rods because of that, but we'll see. So overall, my opinion, would I buy these rods? Well, let's just go over some price points real quick. The green rod coming in at $99.99 without a Carl's membership. If you do have a Carl's membership, which if you buy a lot of tackle from Carl's, or you just buy a lot of tackle in general and Carl's has stuff you like, maybe you should consider getting one. It definitely does pay for itself within a couple orders. If you do, it's $50 a year, and you can save yourself quite a bit of money if you end up buying a lot of tackle. And if you buy some Googan rods right away, you end up almost paying for it within one order. So the green one comes in at $99.99. If you have the membership, it comes in at $79.99. So you get a little bit knocked off the price. So it comes out to 80 bucks for the green rod, which I think not a bad price. Now the gold comes in at $149.99. And if you have the membership, it comes in at $119.99. Now, in my opinion, even with the upgraded guides and supposedly the better carbon, I did not really feel too much of a performance difference between the gold and the green go-to series. Now, there may be some performance differences in some of the other rods. I haven't used them, but with the ones I have used, the go-to, I didn't feel much difference in them. So in my opinion, the gold series is just not worth that extra money. One, because I'm not a huge cork guy, so cork handles is just, that doesn't appeal to me. And then the performance difference between them wasn't that dramatic to where it was worth, you know, the 40 bucks, no, $60, I guess it would be, right? Yeah, 40 bucks. I was right the first time. $40 difference. The $40 difference between the two. So again, it's up to you guys what you guys decide to do, but those are my opinions. If I was going to buy, or if I was going to suggest anybody buy a Googan rod, if they were asking me if they really wanted one, I would suggest go ahead and buy the green. I think it's going to perform well enough for you, and it's a little bit less money. They have the EVA foam, which I prefer. Plus, I really like green, so I just like the green color. That's my favorite color. And performance-wise, I didn't really feel too much of a difference. And on the green, they put a cool little, well, you know, to help measure your fish if that's important to you. I think that's just a cool little added touch that is not on the gold series rod. The other thing that I just wanted to point out, like I said earlier, they don't mark the line or the lure rate on the rods, so you're gonna have to look that up online. So if any of the guys at the Googan Squad end up seeing this video, which I highly doubt since I'm basically a nobody on YouTube, maybe you can start printing that on there. Maybe it's an oversight and they're gonna start doing it on the new ones. I don't know, but hey, there you go. There's that. And maybe figure out a better spacing for your guys to kind of get that pressure, that line pressure more distributed better, so you don't get those bow and arrow kind of line dropping below the blank. But other than that, guys, that's it. Those are my opinions. Take them or leave it, whatever you want to do. I'm not the end all be all. I am not the one to tell you what is the best or what is not the best. It comes down to personal preference. Everyone has their personal preference. That's why I ended up just getting into my own rod building, because I wanted to build exactly what I wanted, and I was just not really into buying rods on the market that weren't fitting everything that I wanted. You know, they might have a few of the things I liked, a couple things I didn't like. I was just tired of settling. That would be a better word. I was tired of settling for things that I didn't really want in a rod. I wanted all the things that I wanted, so that's why I got into my own rod building. So take it as you will. That's it over here at SoCal Fishing Dude. Wesley, if you guys are here for the first time, again, consider subscribing, like this video. If it was informational for you, go ahead, comment down below what you guys think. I like having conversations with you guys, so if you think I'm totally full of BS and you don't agree with what I'm saying, let me know down in the comments and we can have a conversation about it. But that's it, guys. You already know, fishing is the focus. Everything else is bonus. I'll catch you guys later.